Hey all, it's Casey. Before we begin, I wanted to let you know that all the Steamy Stories podcasts are now published as books. It's true. If you enjoy reading or just want to collect the stories from the podcast for your library, go to Amazon.com and look for Steam Room Confidential. That's where I've been lovingly collecting all of the steamy stories from the podcast in a collection of books. Check them out. And as always, we appreciate your support and hope you enjoy them. Now, on with the show. Gunnar Sampson was not yet 16 when he discovered that a small spot on the frosted privacy window to the high school men's locker room had been scraped away, and a peephole now made it possible to see into the showers. He couldn't resist the urge to look through the transparent spot on the glass to see what the varsity football players were up to. What he found as he pressed his face to the window was a cut, muscular guy deep in a thick cloud of steam. He was sweaty, swole, and covered in thick, soapy suds. Gunnar wasn't sure which sex he'd preferred until that moment, but the sight of Brad Barham lathered up with hot water glistening off his young, tight, muscular body made it clear to Gunnar which team he now played for. Hot 1, Hot 2, Hot 3. All right, everyone, take a knee. It's me, your host, Casey. Today, we're going long with an extra steamy story. What makes it extra steamy? Well, you'll find out soon enough. Come on, bring it into a huddle and make yourself comfortable, because I'm about to tell you a story about a young man named Gunnar and how this young rookie scored a college quarterback in this month's steamy story. Gunnar Sampson was already developing into a fine young man. Nearly 16, his boyish, fresh face was giving way to the beginnings of facial hair, and the contours of a handsome teenager were already starting to show. Gunnar loved all sports and was remarkably good at them. His favorite athletic pastime was football, and as a freshman at Seaport High School, he couldn't wait until he was eligible to try out for the team. Until then, he decided to sit on the bleachers and watch the team scrimmage. He believed that by studying the plays they ran and their practice routines, he might one day earn his way onto the team. Gunnar arrived at the football field like clockwork to watch the varsity team play every day. The lineup was impressive, and the players were all handsome, talented, and fit. Gunnar wondered which of the athletes was the most attractive, but that question was instantly answered when Brad Barham jogged onto the field. Brad had a head of hair like no other player. It was wild and full, and his piercing blue eyes brilliantly complemented his tan, flawless skin. One afternoon, just after scrimmaging, the team headed into the lockers. Gunnar gathered his things to return home to study. It could have been his mind distracted with the images of how sexy Brad looked in his uniform that day, or the adrenaline pumping through his youthful body, but as he grasped his phone, it fumbled from his fingers and tumbled down through the floorboards of the bleachers he stood on. Instinctively, like a chimpanzee on monkey bars, he squeezed himself behind the wooden boards and down underneath the steel structure to where his phone lay on the grass. His cell was propped up against the brick wall of the auditorium, next to the large windows of the high school men's showers. As he approached the frosted glass, he noticed a small area on the window where the white privacy covering was scratched away, creating a dime-sized peephole. At first, Gunnar didn't give his geography a second thought, but the laughing and merriment he could hear through the window made him curious about what was happening inside the locker room. Gunnar knew he shouldn't look through the hole, but the sound of horseplay inside the room made it impossible for him not to quickly glance at what was going on. Slowly, he pressed his cheek against the glass and focused his eye on what was happening inside. Much to his surprise and delight was a pristine and perfect view of the football team showering. At first, Gunnar fell back onto the grass. The shock and excitement was too much for him. Whoa! This is insane! And so hot! What am I doing looking at the football team like this? Gunnar picked up his phone and decided it was best to depart quickly and never give this opportunity another thought. But try as he did to leave, he couldn't go without another quick peek, just another small little peek. Again, Gunnar pressed his face against the glass and gazed into the room where the young athletes busied themselves washing. This time, in the shower closest to him, stood Brad Barham, the team's quarterback. The steaming water obstructed his view slightly, but not enough to hide the muscular, toned athlete with a perfect physique. The young player was lathered up and unabashedly reveling in the hot water that cascaded down his sore, exhausted body. Gunnar studied Brad intently. He wondered what it would feel like to run his hand over Brad's tight abs, well-defined pecs, and perfectly shaped ass. The sight of this showering, wet stud excited Gunnar in a way he had never felt before. Before he knew it, he found himself in a state of total arousal. His jeans now had an impressive bulge in them that suggested that he was not as young and innocent as his fresh face implied. Oh my God. Now look at what I've done. I'm totally turned on. I can't let anyone see me like this. I can't come out from under these bleachers until I calm down. The next day, Gunnar made sure to be there as the team once again practiced. He intently watched the team's plays and the coach's strategies. Try as he did to focus on the sport, Gunnar kept daydreaming about when the team would finish practice and head to the showers. As soon as they're done with the scrimmage, I'm leaving. There is no way I will duck under the bleachers and peek in the window at Brad and the team showering again. Wrong as he knew it was, Gunnar couldn't help himself. He was 15 years old and his raging hormones got the best of him. As soon as the practice was over, he found himself eager to steal another quick peek in the locker room window. The team soon barreled into the showers, a dozen naked men anxious to rid themselves of the dirt that covered them, and eager to treat their fatigued muscles to a blast of hot, soothing water. Again, as if it was his shower head of choice, Brad arrived in the area nearest the window and began soaping himself up. He stood amongst the steam, slowly rubbing the hot water and shampoo into his dirt-smudged hair, then bent over to massage his sore, taut muscles. He seemed to be in no rush to leave the soothing shower anytime soon. I've got to go. I can't handle this. If I see any more, I'm going to explode. Gunnar quickly pulled his eye away from the glass and attempted to calm his heart from beating out of his chest. He took long, deliberate breaths, determined to calm down before he headed home to the safety of his parents' house, far away from these torrid temptations that plagued him. Weeks passed, and Gunnar never missed attending a practice or a game. He also never missed a visit beneath the bleachers to enjoy a few minutes of Brad's showering routine. It was like clockwork that Brad was in the same shower stall exactly at the precise time Gunnar would arrive to enjoy the show his dream man unknowingly provided him. School was soon over, and the senior class graduated. A prestigious college scouted Brad to play football for them with a full academic scholarship. So with a golden opportunity ahead of him, he left the state to further his studies and career. Gunnar was sad to see him go, since the times he got to watch this studly hunk in the showers had been the highlight of his year. Now Gunnar was a sophomore. He was the proper age to try out for the junior varsity football team, and he was excited to play a game he loved. Gunnar was conflicted at the prospect of showering in the same location where he had been spying on Brad for the last year. The thought of being in the same locker room where Brad and the team showered was both exciting and terrifying. Luckily, Brad is not going to be in the shower with me this season. If so, I'd surely be harder than a college-level algebra equation. Gunnar made the team during the very first tryouts. Fortunately, he was able to navigate changing in the locker room with the guys. He learned that if he arrived at the tail end of everyone's showers and got in and out quickly while keeping his mind focused on the sport, he'd be able to keep his libido in check and not get overly aroused around the guys. Gunnar fit in easily with the team and soon became its star player. Now at 16 years old, his body developed rapidly. Vigorous cardio exercises, powerlifting, and good genetics helped him become powerful, imposing, and incredibly cut. He was admired by his teammates and respected by the coach. It was clear to all that even as a junior varsity player, he was destined for greatness in the game. The school year came and passed, as did the year after it. Before Gunnar knew it, he was 18 and a Seaport High School senior. The awkward caterpillar who had crawled under the bleachers to sneak a peek at the varsity football team was now its star quarterback. He had indeed transformed into a beautiful butterfly, and everyone knew it. As Gunnar made his way to homeroom one morning, Coach Sullivan caught up to him in the hall.
"Hey son, wait up. Got a minute?"
Gunnar stopped and replied, "Sure, Coach. Everything okay?" The slightly plump, older man warmly smiled and patted him on the back as he assured him,
"Yeah, great. I was just checking in with you. Are you going to be ready for the big game next week? Are you getting enough rest? Do you need me to talk to any of your teachers and tell them to go easy on the homework this week?"
Gunnar laughed. "Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you asking, but I'm good. I'm caught up with school and getting enough rest. I'll be in top form next week for the big game. Don't you worry about me." The coach sighed and mumbled as he began his exit.
"I'm gonna miss you, kid. If I only had a whole team of players like you, we'd be a pro team."
The coach shuffled down the hall and out of sight as Gunnar flinched at the ringing of the bell. "Crap! I'm late!" The following Friday arrived, and it was now homecoming weekend. The entire school showed up for the game that night. The bleachers were full of cheering students and parents alike. Everyone in town was eager to see their beloved home team be victorious over their rival. The opening kickoff came, and the team executed every play with precision and enthusiasm. There was no question in anyone's mind that Gunnar belonged on the field and deserved to be quarterback. The game seemed to be over before you could blink. The score was 21-14, and Seaport High School was victorious! With thunderous applause from the stands, the team took a lap around the field as they waved to the fans, showing their appreciation for their support. The coach signaled it was time to hit the showers, and then head to the bonfire to continue the homecoming celebration. Gunnar waited to hit the showers, as usual. Once the last of the players were finishing their showers, he stripped down, grabbed his toiletries, and began to rinse himself off from the mud and sweat of the game. Ah, the hot water, the intense pressure, the clean, fresh soap. Perfection. As Gunnar relaxed and spread his arms open to capture as much of the delightful hot water as he could, he smiled, remembering Brad years earlier, who showered in the same stall after winning the big game. just like he was. It took him a moment to realize that the thought of Brad in the shower, looking as gorgeous as he did, had excited him. He looked down. Whoops, I guess I'm getting turned on. Gunnar self-consciously looked around the lockers to see if anyone had lingered. Nope, I'm by myself. Gunnar chuckled at himself as he glanced over at the peephole he had peered through years earlier. Much to Gunnar's surprise, there was no light visible through the peephole. It wasn't transparent, as it should be. Could it be that there's someone on the other side? Looking in? Upon closer inspection, Gunnar could see an eyeball staring back at him. He jumped, startled by the leering eye, and instinctively covered himself with his hands. What the heck? Someone found my spot and the hole in the window's tinting. I guess it's time to go. Gunnar quickly turned off the hot water and scampered out of the showers and behind a locker door so he could get dressed in private. Who could that be? Another freshman discovering his sexuality? Or a girl looking for a glimpse at her favorite football player? Gunnar hurriedly slipped on his jeans and shirt before rushing to the exit as he attempted to find out who had gotten a steam show with him as the unwitting star. The school was empty. Homecoming activities had moved all the students, fans, and families to a nearby bonfire. Gunnar rushed out the double doors to the auditorium where gym classes were held. He hadn't walked 50 feet before a light cough startled him. He whirled around. At first, Gunnar didn't recognize the man standing in the shaded corner of the room. But upon closer inspection, his heart raced. Is that Brad Barham? Brad slowly approached him. Gunnar drank in his broad shoulders and chiseled face. Holy smokes! He's even hotter than I remember! Brad finally spoke. The deep timbre of his voice sounded like the lead singer of a rock band. Nice game out there today. You're quite the player. I'm impressed. Gunnar began sweating. His heart pounded in his chest like a jackhammer. Gee, thanks. That's quite a compliment coming from you. Brad laughed. Huh. So, you remember me. You know who I am. Gunnar was quick to reply. Of course! You graduated 3 years ago. You're Brad Barham. Probably the best quarterback the school has ever produced. Gunnar paused before continuing. You still playing ball? Brad smiled as he answered, Thanks for that compliment. And yes, a pro league has scouted me. I can't say who yet, but looks like I'll play for a great team next season. Gunnar's heart was settling into a steady, calm beat as his interest grew in this fantastic athlete's career. What brings you back to Seaport? Obviously, you watched today's game. Brad made himself comfortable on the bench as he man-spread his legs and leaned back against the wall. I stopped in for homecoming. I figured I'd check out the game. Once everyone's split, I figured I'd walk around the school and rekindle some old memories. I was curious to see if that old peephole in the window was still there. I figured I'd look to see what view it provided. Who could have guessed the young man who watched me for a year would take my place in my favorite showerhead, and that I'd be watching him wash up after a game? Gunnar was shocked. Brad knew he was being watched, and who was spying on him? Without a thought, Gunnar blurted out, Well, I hope you enjoyed the show I just provided you with. Brad didn't miss a beat as he replied, Actually, yes, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was very, very hot. Gunnar was stunned, since that wasn't the reply he had expected to hear. Brad continued with a confident tease. Well, fair's fair. You watched me for a year, so I watched you today. I also had the same reaction you did in the shower just now. I hope you were thinking of me when you got excited. Gunnar took a deep breath and carefully responded, As a matter of fact, if you really must know, yeah, I was thinking of you. Brad winked as he gave a sly grin. I'm glad to hear it. He paused as he looked around. Well, since we both seem to be admirers of the other, and both are clearly still in an excited state, what do you say we return to the showers and see if we could do something about rinsing away these dirty thoughts we seem to be having? Before Brad could respond, Gunnar unbuttoned his shirt with his left hand and grabbed the back of Brad's head with his right hand. He pulled him quickly towards him and pressed his lips to his. Gunnar had dreamt of this kiss for several long years, and didn't want another second to pass before he got a piece of this smoldering stud. Brad eventually pulled back, gasping for air. Oh, quite the lip lock. I'm impressed. Gunnar winked. You haven't seen anything yet. Come on, let's get you undressed. Your favorite showerhead is waiting for you. I mean us. I'll grab you a towel. You can share my bar of soap. I expect we'll work up quite a lather. Ah, football. I remember all the time spent in the locker with the team, all sweaty and exhausted. I mean, I never played the game. The players were all I was interested in. And trust me, when we were done in the showers, there wasn't a tight end on the team anymore. They were all wide receivers. You're listening to Steamy Stories, the podcast where bromance turns bromosexual. Each story is written by J.C. Calciano and narrated by me, your favorite all-star, Casey. Make sure you scrimmage with us next month as I tell you another steamy story. Later, bro.